And it's lights out and away we go!
Hello everyone and welcome to the GT UK F1 podcast, brought to you by the Game Time UK YouTube channel. If you're not listening there, why not drop by, subscribe, check out what we're doing. There's loads of great game content released every day, completely for free. Before we start the podcast, I just want to take a second to mark the passing of NASCAR legend and racer Kyle Busch. After a short illness at the age of 41, it's always a shame in the racing community when one's taken from us, especially so young. And our thoughts are with his friends and family at this very difficult time. As you probably noticed, folks, it's just me this week. I apologise for that, I know, I hate it as much as you do, but Chris is away on holiday, so he's asked me to take the reins, let me loose with everything. Scary thought, but all of us involved. We will be back completely to normal for Monaco in 2 weeks' time. That's Monaco, that one. Usual disclaimer here, I didn't see the single pre-practice session. Due to being a sprint weekend, obviously, only one practice session, my personal favourites. But I had a quick look at the highlights, and what I got from it was plenty of early lawn mowing going on. Track was really dusty. It's a track that I don't think he's used a huge amount outside of Formula 1. So it took some cleaning up. Obviously the Montreal weather doesn't always help these situations, but the new upgrades to the Mercedes seemed very effective very early, despite Russell managing to slide into the turn 2 wall towards the end of that session. Colapinto and Liam Lawson in the Alpines and the Racing Bull respectively. Reliability issues, the latter not even making it into sprint qualifying as a result. Ocon found the wall in turn 4, which is an unusual place. It looked almost like something failed on the car. And by the end of the practice session, we had Kimi Antonelli first, Russell second, Hamilton third. Notable performance to Arvid Lindblad for getting up into 8th place, sort of coming onto form a little bit with that Racing Bull. Obviously, with recent form, it's a bit ominous when we're seeing the Mercedes dominate the sessions like this. We're not quite at trouble territory yet, and I know these things go in swings and roundabouts, but still, it's looking that way. But I passes on to sprint qualifying. As I say, Liam Lawson and unfortunately Alex Albon didn't make sprint qualifying, which gives us the opportunity of possibly 2 different cars to make SQ2. You've got the usual players down at the bottom, and when 2 of the further up cars are out, there's a chance for fun things to happen. It was a pretty uneventful session up until Alonso found the wall in turn 3. After a really bad lockup leading to a red flag with, I think it was about 1 minute 45 left on the clock. There was quite a bit of debate as to whether the session would go again, but due to the amount of time there was, it did make more sense for it to resume, and it did. By the end of the session, there was a bit of battling at the front. Hamilton's looked on pace again. It's a track he loves. He's had, I think, one of his more successful tracks over the years, and it showed. But by the end of SQ1, eliminated were Lawson and Albon, obviously, Valtteri Bottas, Pierre Gasly, which that's probably the surprise one given Alpine's performance since the Mercedes engine came in, and the fact Colapinto seems on a bit better form. Lance Stroll, a shame for the local guy, obviously his home race, you would hope for a little bit better from him there, but obviously the Aston Martin, unfortunately, still not working great. And Sergio Perez. Technically, Alonso did make it into SQ2. The time he'd set before his crash was good enough for, I think it was 14th place. But obviously the car was not allowed to continue due to the fact it caused a red flag. So, eliminated were obviously himself, because he never set a time. Behrman, Ocon, Colapinto, Bortoleto and Hulkenberg. That gave us the top 10 into SQ3. Immediately into SQ3, Hamilton looked strong. Hamilton looked very strong. He seemed to be up there fighting. Even the Red Bulls appear to have made a step forward. Maybe Max's recent attempt at the NLS was helping him with the colder tyres, the trickier conditions, because he seemed back up there. He seemed very much back up onto the force, but the end result in the starting grid for the sprint was very Noah's Ark. We had 2 Mercedes, Russell followed by Antonelli, 2 McLarens, Norris then Piastri, 2 Ferraris with Lewis ahead of Leclerc, and 2 Red Bulls as Verstappen beat Hadjar by just over 1/10 of a second. A great performance by Hadjar. Maybe the curse of the second Red Bull is finally coming to an end. That Ford power is maybe suiting Hadjar a little bit more. So, from that sprint quali, it's pretty much, it ended up as we expected, considering what we had potential of. It settled down, and so we get ourselves forward into what will be the sprint race. The Mercedes made a fantastic start, as expected, with Lewis doing really well. Off the line to gain 1 place over Piastri. Hadjar was complaining of engine trouble early on, which the team checking out, but the car was able to continue. And then battle commenced between the 2 Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli keen to try and get one over on his far more experienced teammate. Into turn 1, Kimi made a questionable move to try and overtake, which caused him to be pushed wide. Now, if it had been 2 separate teams, I would imagine Kimi's team would have protested it to the FIA, but they're not going to protest their own. They're not going to protest their own car now, are they? And then towards the end of the second aero area, a lock-up caused by another Kimi move caused him to lose second place down to Lando Norris. Now, if we've got any Mercedes fans in the audience, I mean, I've got Alan here to ask his opinion on it, but are you getting any worrying flashbacks to 2016? You know, it was great, fine, fantastic battle to see. It's always great to see teammates allowed to fight like that, because it's where we get some of the great. We have 2 great drivers there. I mean, I'm one in the past who maybe questioned the choice of Kimi going to Mercedes. I've been proven wrong. I think Russell expected his experience would carry him to an easy lead in that team, and it's not happening. Unfortunately, Kimi did seem to get somewhat rattled by the incidents, with a rather interesting exchange going on team radio, up until the point that even Toto had to get involved with this sound clip.
Kimi, concentrate on the driving, please, and not on the radio moaning.
Hamilton had a brush with the wall of champions while fighting Piastri, but luckily suffered no big damage. And the sprint race finished with George Russell first, Lando Norris second, and Kimi Antonelli third. Great result for Colapinto to get back to 9th, sadly just missing out on the single sprint race point. And a solid 10th for Carlos Sainz. Their performance upgrades to the Williams coming slowly. The car's still suffering, I'm assuming with weight issues. However, it's a good fight back, and hopefully it's a step forward. So with that, we move into race qualifying. Now, race qualifying with much cooler conditions being a bit later on. And there seems to be a lot of trouble for drivers firing up those tyres. Quite a few slides, quite a few lockups coming in, just into some of the tighter bends, which was leading to at times worried for some drivers. Track limits luckily aren't the big issues on this circuit. It's not one of the tracks that's watched that carefully, so we didn't have that to contend with. However, at the end of SQ1, we eliminated Bottas, Stroll again, Alonso, Albon adding to an already terrible weekend, and Esteban Ocon, who Behrman is so reliably outperforming him these days. It's quite interesting to watch. Behrman, which was eliminated in SQ2, along with Sainz, Gasly, Bortoleto, Lawson, and Nico Hulkenberg. The Audis were showing promise, but just didn't seem to be able to put it together at where it mattered. Now to the SQ3 shootout. Now we're all sat there by this point expecting a whitewash from the Mercedes. But the McLarens, Verstappen and Hamilton, bringing it a lot closer. Once again, as I said before, Hamilton loves this circuit. And it showed. Things settled out that, and the final order was George Russell less than 1/10 of a second ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Followed by Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Isaac Hadjar, Charles Leclerc, Arvin Lindblad, and Franco Colapinto. Great result for Lindblad and Colapinto there, and as I said before, is Hadjar finally getting on top of this second Red Bull car? So the grid at that point then is largely as we expect for the actual race. Stroll was starting from the pit lane because they took his car out to Parc Fermé to make changes to try and salvage something. And they used new engine parts. I don't have information exactly what they changed, but that of course went into a pit lane start. Like I said, I'm really impressed with Lindblad this weekend. He's pushing up. I would say Colapinto, especially after his early attempts at Williams last season, showing real form. I mean, both these drivers in question out-qualified there, you would say far more experienced. You would expect to be far more reliable teammates. So that's always got to be a bonus. And it was closer at the top than we thought as we headed into race day Sunday. Now, the weather conditions for Sunday were questionable. Bit of drizzle in the air, bit of rain.
Yeah, slippery when wet.
Leading to McLaren, I think, accidentally reading Ferrari's strategy book. Because for some reason, the two McLarens, actually I should say along with the Audis, Carlos Sainz, and the two Cadillacs, chose to start on the intermediate tyres. Piastri was even questioning this before the race began, but it was too late to change them and not lose grid spot. So we got to the start. We had the 5 red lights, then nothing happened. The first attempt at the start had to be aborted after Lindblad's car suffered gearbox issues on the grid, wouldn't go into gear. After what I've just said and after his performance in qualifying, that's such a shame for the guy because he had done so well to get that car moving, get that car up the grid, and then it lets him down before he can even turn a competitive wheel. It took them 2 more formation laps to get Lindblad's car moving off the grid, down the back of the pit lane into the pits, which drops the race length down to 68 laps. And then finally, at our second attempt, we get a start. One thing about the intermediates, though, it gave the two McLarens a fantastic launch. Norris managed to jump past both Mercedes straight to the lead. Piastri unfortunately lost 1 position to a Ferrari. Although it didn't last long, as once the softs warmed up, they were back through. Piastri pitted into lap 1 for mediums, and Norris followed lap 2. Not long after this, Mercedes got back to fighting the way it was back in sprint. More of this fantastic action. Such a great thing to see for the fans. I mean, this has been one of the best possible races we've had in a little while. Like I say, 2 Mercs wheel to wheel. I mean, not looking forward to Spain as a result. I'm sure you Merc fans aren't, but it took to lap 6 when Russell cut across Kimi, causing a lock-up nearly into the back of his car again. And then we got a little bit of flashback, I think. We had Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton restarting fights. The tyres were still cold, the track was cold, and they were struggling. It's a lot of lockups, a lot of slides, and quite a big field spread. Unfortunately, very early on, the likes of the McLarens found themselves more than a pit stop behind, which He's never going to help you out when you've got that to deal with. Yeah, you got find yourself a pit stop behind if there's no safety cars, nothing. I mean, the ultimate goal, I guess, would be a red flag and a restart, but no safety car means find themselves a pit stop with someone half behind by 20 laps in. Speaking of the McLarens, lap 13, a recovering Piastri made a very dodgy lunge into the hairpin, mistook it, and unfortunately drove straight into Albon's radiator, knocking him out and gaining Oscar a 10-second stop-go penalty. While this is going on, Max and George and Kimi are still going at it until, unfortunately, such an epic battle was robbed from us when Russell sadly suffered an engine failure. The car grinding to a halt just before the hairpin, killing his race, killing the action, and unfortunately his emotions earned him a fine when he threw the headset out of the car onto a live circuit. Unfortunately, that left Kimi with not a lot of competition. Has to be said, that Merc in race pace was a league ahead. Hadjar managed to catch himself a 10-second penalty for moving under braking, fighting Leclerc. Then on lap 40, another big hit, and Norris retires with a gearbox failure. And then on lap 43, Perez's front suspension collapses, not quite to the old Toro Rosso full-on fall, but while entering the pit lane, it just fell apart. This started one of a little run of VSCs while they cleared the debris, during which Leclerc managed to have a massive slide right alongside the wall of champions, didn't hit it, and somehow kept the car going. This is where I have a question when it comes to the rulebook. Because under this VSC, both Piastri and Hadjar served their 10-second penalties. Now, to my understanding, I'm pretty confident you are not allowed to serve a penalty under a full safety car. But I didn't think you were allowed to serve them under a VSC. Now, nothing came up, so I'm guessing I was wrong, but that seems silly to let them serve that penalty not under green flag conditions. Obviously, because they lose far less time. I mean, they still lose 10 seconds, but the rest of the field is travelling so much slower. So it's basically letting them off the penalty without fully paying it. I say, it obviously is allowed because we never got any warning. As far as I'm aware, there's never been anything said about it. I will just quickly check. No, never. So the race finished, Kimi Antonelli won it comfortably, with Hamilton second and Verstappen third. Now, I feel Red Bull are going to be very happy with that. They didn't expect to win this weekend being anywhere near the McLarens, the Ferraris, or the Mercedes. So I think to get that one, they'll take that. They'll take that as an absolutely positive. Hadjar came fifth, which was, again, great result for him, although he was the last of the cars to be lapped. So to give you the full lowdown, after the top three was Leclerc fourth, Hadjar, Colapinto, Lawson, Gasly, Sainz, Behrman 10th. Great result for Haas after what didn't look to be a fantastic weekend for them. Piastri, Hulkenberg, Bortoletto, Ocon, Stroll, and Bottas. And we had DNFs for Perez, Norris, Russell, Alonso, Albon, Lindblad. Bortoletto received a 5-second penalty for a virtual safety car infringement, although I don't think that actually changed his position. I think there was enough gaps in between. So in the Champions, so what that means after this weekend, after the fifth race of the season in the Drivers' Championship, Kimi Antonelli is in the lead with 131 points. George Russell is second with 88 points, 43 behind. So that's where the real pain for Russell comes. Now more than a race win behind Kimi. Kimi has a big mistake and still maintain the lead. Third is Charles Leclerc on 75. Fourth is Lewis Hamilton on 72. Lando Norris on 58. Oscar Piastri on 48. Max Verstappen on 43. Gasly on 20. Behrman on 18. Lawson with 16 rounds out the top 10. Hadjar is 12th. And that's about the standouts. And at the moment, everyone Hulkenberg, Bottas, Perez, Stroll and Alonso doesn't have any points. I'm genuinely surprised at Hulkenberg in that one. The other ones you can kind of call with the way the season's going, but Hulkenberg not scored yet. And in the teams championship, Mercedes are in the lead with 219, Ferrari with 147, McLaren with 106, Red Bull with a tin of beans, 57, Alpine with 35, Racing Bulls 21, Haas 19, Williams 7, Audi with 2, both from bottle out. Paddy and Aston both have 0. During the race, Kimi Antonelli set the fastest lap on lap 68. The old Sebastian Vettel, let's set the fastest lap on the last lap just to show off. And driver of the day went to Lewis Hamilton, which I don't actually disagree with. I unfortunately didn't vote because I didn't watch the race live. I had to watch it back. But it was a good performance. Like I say, I feel it was one of those races where when you look at who retired, I mean, having Norris and Russell out, it's an opportunity for some of the guys, for the likes of Colapinto to get 6th. Gasly 10th, so Alpine double points finish this weekend. After, say, what looked at qualifying to be awful. Say Red Bull 3rd and 5th, they're going to take that right now. Compared to where the rest of the things are, because this team's going, that is not a bad result. That only leads me to talk about the Fantasy League. Now, unfortunately, I can't give you video because it's just me. I can't put the video up. But from our teams in the Canadian Grand Prix, bring this up in front of me so I can see it better. For just this Grand Prix, in 5th place was Alan with 90 points. He had negatives on Sergio Perez, Arvid Lindblad. He's 2 times on George Russell, which I think just kept him. Which actually, his team and my team look very similar because I've got the same. I've got the same negatives and the same double. I got 90. I got 4 more points. I got 94. I think because my team choice is different. Chris is next on 118. He had no negatives. Didn't use a chip. Simon got 2nd with a negative for Lindblad. But first was Daniel, who used his wildcard chip. With his 2 times on Max Verstappen, who scored a whopping 228 points. Despite him getting a negative for Sergio Perez. So, overall, that gives us Chris in last with 560 points. Alan in 4th with 651, so 89 points between them. Then it's a bit of a jump up to me on 973. Simon just ahead of me with 1007, while Daniel leads the way with 1190 points. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I've spoken about the bits I want to talk about. I want to hear from Merc fans. What do you think? Are you worried? Or is this just going to be one of those cracking battles that runs and runs and runs? And also, I want people's thoughts on that serving penalties under VSC. Like I say, that to me just seems not right. So I know you can't serve them under a full-blown safety car, but serving under VSC seems like a bit of a... It's a bit silly. I just want to take the time to thank you for listening. Don't forget this podcast is out every Wednesday at midday UK time on a race week. Wherever you get your podcast from. Please check out the gaming channel on YouTube. Check out our Twitch, socials. We're on all of them. Post a lot of stuff. Not a huge amount of F1 content right now, but I'm sure that'll pick up again once the F1 26 game launches. All that's left for me is to thank you for listening, and until next time, goodbye.